Um, yeah, sharing stories. That's what we do. We tell you the truth. We'll put out every skeleton that's out there. The light will expose all of it. Right. So yeah, we're storytellers, poets, musicians. Uh, we're on fire. What more can we tell you? See, and the beauty of that is that we don't charge you to go to school. We don't charge any. We don't sell our experiences. Okay, are already automatically recorded. Okay, that's why everything I've ever put up, you could say, was unnecessary and just a completely wasted time when I could have been doing other things. But that's not why I do this. Okay, I give love to everything in the all creation, which means I care about all of you, everybody that's here, anybody that has ever, any soul or spirit that has ever suffered any torture or any trauma on any level. Okay, then if I'm around, then it's going to experience what love is to heal them, whatever it is. It doesn't make any difference what it is. If I detect something that isn't experiencing what love is, then I will know that it's not what I am. And so then I will heal that. I will find some way for it to experience what I am. So it experiences that the birth of all creation began with what I am, which is what love is. It goes on forever, gifting you energy. It doesn't cost you anything to experience what I am. Okay, so we're not selling our energy. We're giving away our energy. Okay, that's the difference. That's obvious. So then a child's got to ask, well, who you want to learn from? Okay. You want to learn from spirit? Real living spirit that is in the light, which is what love is purified. Michelle Martin is like that. She's another purifier. Okay. It simply means that you operate on a completely different level because they simply do not experience that energy. That's what it is. They don't experience being on fire. That's why when she wrote that comment to me when I put a video up, she goes, "You're on fire." She knows because she has felt what it's like to be on fire. She knows, as I know, that to win a spiritual war, you want to be the highest intelligence there is in all of creation, then you know that's a love engine that is. Okay. Because at the end of the day, when you're talking about spiritual battles, how much fire you got in you. Well, they'll put the fire out. Turn that heart cold, right? Bye. Spirit lost its light. Put the wick out. Right? So that's why when that one guy, what's his name, Bashir's or whatever, Banishars. See, I don't remember this stuff. Things move through my circulation library of things that you don't want to keep anyway. So it's like you're discarding all this crap. You know, all the programming language. Okay. You know, get rid of that, get rid of this. Just when you put a command function in, as I did, because I'm a command. I am familiar with command structures like Starfleet command structures, stuff of that level. Okay, so you don't get to be a fleet commander, if you will, something of on the light forces side, if you haven't somehow or other you made it to become what that is because of your wisdom, the side you're on. How much love do you have in your heart? And basically all that means is that you're taking care of everybody underneath you because you're the one that's the tip of the spear that's out there first to make sure if anybody goes down first, it's me. That's a true explorer. Okay? That is a true explorer in any universe. Okay? Is to be fearless. Otherwise, how are you going to protect what comes out of you? Okay. So that has everything to do with seed if you're on the male side, right? So that means that you're a warrior, as war is defined that way. But what it really is, for me, and I knew this as a child, is you're a heart. We're love-based. I'm love-based. And that, in and of itself, becoming what that is, an enormous amount of fire. So fire becomes the protection of your shield for your soul, led by your spirit that is on fire in that light. So you realize that that's a burner. I call them barn burners. Bonfires on the beaches. Okay. But the fires do no harm. It's the spirit that's in that fire we're bringing out, right? Dance and spirit, bring the fire out. All the other living spirits that are out there in Sanctuary Temple's light, when they see a big ass bonfire going like on a beach, right? On a beautiful night, right? With a moon, like a harvest moon over the ocean, right? That's powerful stuff. That'll bring the spirits out. That raises the energy. Spirits that are in the energy. See? That's why they did everything that they did, to the American, as they're called, American Indians, indigenous peoples. I simply try and just be neutral about, because of the way that alphanumerical formatting works, on the perception of how somebody else perceives that word and the meaning and context in which they experience it at the open and closing magnetic circuit versus how somebody else would, because even though the words can sound the same and mean different things to different people, they're not going to be experienced vibrational frequency-wise the same way by those different beings that hear the same thing or see the same visual text. So that's part of why when I was a child, I realized I lived in my heart. This is my communication platform. Communicate through my heart. When you're a child, I communicate through my heart. My heart is my platform. Okay, because you already know what they can try and do with this. So you know that your power plant is your vortex, your heart wheel. So it's wide open. So when you're fearless, it's like you're not afraid to experience anything because you're on fire to begin with. But you're in what I call booby trap terrain, which are consciousness traps. Ooh, now you're being spun around, and next thing you know is you're running that reality. Man, I got to get out of that one. Because you're giving it energy to experience it. And then you're not aware of it. Ooh, that's dangerous. You better reorient that compass when that happens. Because next thing you know is you end up someplace that you can't get out of. Right? You lose your memory. But there really is no memory. That flame is still running. That flame is still lit. So what I call it is you're experiencing the programming. You're giving energy to experience what they're experiencing, which is the programming, the program reality. It's being held in memory. And the thing about it is that when you're bringing your router, if you will, into that network to experience what's being experienced, it's being routed through all the alphanumerical formatting that represents a holographic simulation. It's like you're plugged into the movie set. But you don't want to run that movie. So you can run different movies, right? Move from one to the other. Like, hey, let's go experience this movie set. Let's go out down to someplace in Kalamazoo. Now we're going to experience that movie set. Right? So, and it's going to be different depending on where you are, depending on the energies that happen to be there. And that would obviously be true. It's like one guy that I happen to love it up in and this is no coincidence because if you want to look at the history on this, it's the Siskiyou Mountains. It's, all the cartels work up there. If you didn't know this, up in Siskiyou, and this is no coincidence if I've mentioned this in other videos, why I was up in the Upper Applegate Valley where the dam is now, why the dam was put in there, why the dam was in there, now you get into the Oregon Caves, and then all that underneath the Siskiyou Mountains, say go from Gold Beach to Grants Pass, draw a line east-west on that, and then that's up over what's known as Bear Camp Road. So I've been up over Bear Camp Road. Everything sort of south of that goes all the way down to Crescent City along the coast where the California and the Oregon border meet, which is Crescent City. Most of that's burned off at one time or another. And then you have what they did a couple of years ago where they burned up everything north right around Garberville. That was always a big marijuana beginning, so to speak, that came out of San Francisco with all the UC Berkeley stuff, Flower Children, Haight-Ashbury, hippies, right? Jefferson Airplane, Golden Gate Park on Sundays, running around with acid droppers of putting acid on everybody's tongue, right? free love, not make war, all this kind of stuff. Then it's getting on the news, right? Okay, so how you come out of sort of how that's all being engineered actually is what it is. So you're sorting through this terrain, which are like, for me, like movie sets. Hey, you want to go play a role in this one? What are you going to be in this one? I'll just be a lamppost, just sitting around observing. Right? So you begin to realize what people's minds' energy are being held captive to experience the reality they're given energy to experience. So that becomes their world. So it's all about RAM. That's why I mentioned this before. When I was a child, hey, you know what a memory dump is, right? Okay, so you've got free will right to be able to do that because you already know what you are with the amount of fire that you have to be able to do that. Because it means that we know what to do with our energy so that doesn't exist anymore. Because you know who you're hooked up with. You know the engines that represent what you are, and those engines know who you are. And those engines love to be with you, by the way. So now all them power engines are all hooked up. That'd be the mob. Yep. So that's a lot of fire. Yep. So the spirit of fire is always going to be the one. Yeah, the one. Yeah, this was an amazing journey, but it is true about different paths that you can go, because it really is true when I realize what's happened to so many of these people. And even, and this is probably, when you think about expectations and what you accept and what you don't accept, right? When you are what love is, you know the difference between what is and what isn't. But love doesn't impose its will on anybody, because then I hold myself captive to what it is. So if it isn't what love is, I don't want to be held captive by something that isn't what love is, because I am what love is. So I either have to heal you, and now you're in the same universe that I am that began with what love is, right? Or you return to the source from which I am what love is. That's an enormous amount of fire, right? Or I quietly walk away. Because I realize that because you can map read whether or not it's possible for that being to have an open communication with that being, heart to heart, soul to soul, spirit to spirit, see if they're willing to experience what love will naturally expose isn't what love is. And whether you're going to do that with that being. See? And that becomes the absolute art, healing art of communication, to be able to do that. And that's what happens when you navigate through a trauma field, a trauma zone, with casualties everywhere. See, so I've mentioned this before when I was a child. Casualties everywhere already. But I was measuring them as over, say, time space, between different decades or even different years. It would vary. Some numbers went up, some numbers went down, some evened off, because I could measure it, right? So one of the things I was measuring is the speed at which they do what they do with their minds, like a web, right? A network, like a web, like web feet, just like trees, all the branches that are connected with each other, just like in your brain. All the arteries and all the circuits that are communicating with each other, right? And what you can see that they're doing through each other, right? So you begin to obviously map them, what they're doing, that they're mapping with us. See? The difference is they don't run at the same speed. Naturally. Because of who they are versus who we are. So spirit is more powerful than tech because spirit came before tech. Spirit is in that fire. Those atoms vibrating at that rate of speed did not start a gazillion years down the road. It's always been on. So when you're always on, which means your vibration, your love is always on, your fire is always lit, and you're in an energy war with others that use their technology against you, then the ultimate spirit which is the ultimate fire, which is in that light, becomes the obvious answer to the solution. It always will. You can see it just why people burn things. Used to be in the days when I was growing up in the fall, people would rake their leaves, right, and burn them. Burn the leaves. Right? Yeah. Return to fire. Spirit of fire. That's a natural spirit. Right? Have a good evening. I love you all. Be good to yourselves.